I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If you'll be seated. First item we have on our agenda is approval of the official agenda, but I think we have a few changes to make to it. And I would kind of like to go over some of those changes, make sure we all have the most current agenda. One of the items in public appearances, we have Patrick Nordine with the Starkville motion regarding the bike lane proposal for Greensboro-Whitfield Street. All of you have that on your agenda. The public hearing at 609 McKee Street has been removed. It's not been removed off of your agenda, but I believe, is that not right, Sumner?
It is.
It is?
The notice was
removed,
so we need to renotice.
The notice was for
defective.
What?
The notice of the public hearing sent to the property owner was defective.
Okay. Let's see. Tammy, was there anything else on this particular one? Yes, if you'll notice, a request by Richard Hewlett has been removed. And I believe the public hearing to amend the text in the planned office district overlay, is that correct? That has been asked by a partnership to be removed at this time.
Mr. Mayor, just a couple of comments. I have no objection to hearing from Mr. Patrick Nordine, but I know that the board has approved a policy with regard to public appearances. They have to be the requests have to be in so many days before the scheduled board meeting, and I'm more than excited to hear about them, but we need to make sure that in the enforcement, in the interpretation and application of our policies, that we're fair and consistent, as well as impartial with all our requesting parties. So, again, do not construe this as a matter of being in opposition, but I just want to make sure that, that the rules are fair to everybody. And just recently, we adopted a policy that provides, and Ms. Spruill, I'm sure, is here, she can speak to that. Ms. Spruill, let me just direct this to your attention. Does this request comply with the board-approved policy as to the time period in which this should be tendered to the board for its consideration?
No, Mr. Vice Mayor, except that Alderman Cox asked to be put on the agenda, so it's his request.
I did, and I take full blame. We had a miscommunication on this, and I was supposed to put it on the agenda, and I didn't. So it's not the applicant; it's me who didn't get the information in it.
Well, let me just say one thing for the record, and we are, and there's nothing adversarial, Mr. Nordine. It's just a housekeeping matter. This just is a matter, if we're going to adopt policies and procedures, it's just like the law. The law applies to everybody or nobody, and this policy applies the same to everybody or nobody. So if we're not going to follow this policy, we don't need it. Now, it doesn't matter with me if the board want to delete the policy, but if we're going to have it in place, we need to follow the policy. I'm sure Mr. Nordine's going to have something good to say, but if we're going to waive this requirement here, then we can't hold anybody else to the same standard. So this may come up down the road. So I just want to bring this up to the attention of the board so the board can decide whatever it wants, because we'll see this type situation again. And secondly, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to move on to the next item. There's one matter I'd like to put off the agenda for executive session discussion, and that's going to be Departmental Business B, Building Codes and Planning Department, consideration of extending the contract between the City of Starkville and Hugh Gwynn for Building Codes and Planning Department inspection. So I'd like that discussed in executive session. And whatever the board pleasures about the public appearance, I just want to make sure that we're, understand what our policies are, because if we allow this amendment tonight, we need to.
Mr. Perkins, am I not under the impression that any alderman can add anything to the agenda at any time that they wish?
Good question, Mr. Mayor. And the mayor raised a very important question. The mayor's question is, can any alderman bring any matter to the agenda anytime he wishes? The answer is yes, but aldermen are not above the law. We're held to the same standard as anybody else. Every alderman bring matters to the agenda that conforms with the board policy. I have no objection to any of my colleagues bringing anything to this table, but at the same time, an alderman cannot bring something to this table, should not be allowed to bring something to this table if it contradicts a board policy. But if, if the board chooses to ignore the policy, then we need to repeal it. That's just the bottom line. So, and the gentleman from Ward 5, I have no objection to the subject matter, and that's a distinction with what the mayor said about the alderman. Yes, any alderman can bring a matter to the agenda, but when there's a policy in place, we need to follow the policy. Just like we expect employees to follow the policy. If they don't follow the policy, then, we want to deal with it. That's the way I see it. So, but whatever's the wish of the board, I just want to make sure we're clear on that. I've been at this table a long time, and I understand how all this works, and so I just want to bring this to your attention. So whatever's the will of this board, that's going to be fine with me, but you need to be aware of that so we have another requesting party in the future. Don't hold them to a different standard. So that's fine. Whatever is the will of this board.
Mayor and Board, I move that we approve the August 15, 2006 agenda with the changes previously mentioned.
I think there's some other discussion.
Is there any other discussion in regard
The
to?
item that was asked to be removed, Mr. Mayor, and that was Mr. Mills' item.
Mayor, I'd
F,
like,
under 8F, no parking signs on Greensboro.
8F, okay. Yeah, all right.
I'd like to remove section F on the board business, consideration of placing no parking sign on Greenberg Street between Louisville Street and Richmond Yates Street. At that same time, when this comes up, I'd like to delete this, but I would like to have a discussion about the bike path in that area.
Okay. So are you wanting Mr. Patrick Nordine to talk about the bike path
Yeah,
of that area
right.
at that time?
can we,
Mr. Mayor and Board, and Mr. Vice Mayor, maybe we could approach it in this particular fashion. It certainly is true that any alderman can add any item to the agenda for consideration at any time, whether or not it's on the agenda, not on the agenda, anything of this sort, well established. Of course, what Mr. Perkins refers to is the fact there is a policy in place for public appearances, which requires so many days' notice and so forth. So we might want to approach this to remove this item from a public appearance thing and then, or category, and then simply add it to board business as a particular category to be talked about. And then, of course, Mr. Nordine could be asked to contribute to that discussion.
Well
Does
said.
that sound reasonable, Mr. Vice Mayor?
Well said, well said.
Okay, so
could we
we can
place
add
that item
that to board
first
business
under board
item
business,
nine.
please, since he's here?
Pardon me?
Can we place the item, his presentation, first under board business?
Yes, I think we could probably do that.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentleman from Ward 3. Very, very well said.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Now, do we have any other items to remove from the agenda? If we keep on, we won't have an agenda now.
I'd like to reiterate my previous motion with the changes mentioned previously.
Do we have a second?
Oh, second.
We have a motion with a second that we approve the official agenda with the changes made, and I will go back over those changes. We are deleting item number 6, public hearing on 609 McKee Street. We're taking Patrick Nordine, which is right above that, and we're moving that to board business, the first item under board business. We're removing the consideration of placing no parking signs on Greensboro Street. We are in building codes and planning department. We're moving the first item in building codes and planning department to executive session to discuss the contract. We are removing the public hearing to amend the text of the planned office district overlay. Did I leave anything out?
Hewlett property matter.
Right, well, it's already X'd out.
Right, but for those who don't have copies of it.
Okay, well, removal of the Hewlett property request to change from an RE to a B1. Those are the basic changes I have. And with a motion and a second, do I hear approval of the official agenda? All those say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Comments, if you'll notice that we were listed as 36 as far as cities out of 50, in which there are about 12 different categories of criterias in which to be listed. We are one of 5 southern cities to be listed, one of 2 in the state of Mississippi, one in the state of Alabama, one in Oklahoma, and I'm not real sure where the other one was listed. I don't think we were on the radar screen this time last year, so that's certainly an accomplishment that we have done. I would also like to say that this week, and you will hear in public appearance, that the city and the university will start its transit system that we've talked about. And we hope that this Thursday that will be beginning. Is that right, Dr. Ray? So we've got a lot of positive things happening in Starkville, Mississippi. This is a good place to be. A lot of exciting things are going on here, and there will also continue to be exciting and going on. Do we have an approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of April the 4th and the regular recess meeting of April the 18th? Have you had a chance to make your correction on these minutes?
I would move the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of April 4 and the recess meeting of April 18.
Second.
Motion with a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye, please. Aye. All those opposed? The minutes are approved. This brings us to citizen. I ask Dr. Ray to be here tonight. A 3-minute plug. If he happens to run to 3.5 minutes, I will not wham down on the gavel. We have approximately 3 minutes for any citizen that would like to get up to say anything.
Joe Ferris is with him, who may or may not.
Mr. Ferris, Joe Ferris is with him. If you would like to join him, or we're going to let him sit up here by himself.
I like to distribute those, whatever you need to.
Okay. He's going to give you just a thumbnail sketch of transit.
Mayor, Board of Aldermen, we're pleased this afternoon to come and give you an update on the Mississippi State Starkville transit system. As you know, this partnership started about 2 or 3 years ago, and we've been working together. Our goal is to make transportation easier and more efficient for both students, faculty, and the citizens of Starkville. We've worked very diligently. At this point, we've developed a system. It's a preliminary system, given that we've had some delays. Our delays have been caused by a mix-up, one, in the order for our shuttle buses. The manufacturer, we ordered 3 ADA-compliant shuttles and 1 non-ADA. However, when the order went in, they came up with 3 non-ADA compliant and 1 ADA compliant shuttle. So we've been working through that up until this afternoon. I'm told that we were looking to take possession of a final shuttle this afternoon. But where we are, first, we want to invite the board, the mayor and board, on a trial shuttle run in the morning, 9 a.m., and we will pick you up here at City Hall. And what we'd like to do is take you on the routes, allow you to see what our preliminary plans are, and allow you to give us some input. At the present time, we have 2 routes. We call it a north route and a south route. Without going into a lot of detail, if you look at that north route, and I have to look at my notes because it's fairly complex. If you look at the north route, and that north route has the little rectangle there at the end around the hospital, we would leave Cullis Wade Depot. Now, the imaginary thing about Cullis Wade Depot is we are using that right now as our hub. As you know, when we initially started out, we wanted to use the Millsap property. That's off the table at this time. So we are looking for a hub whereby we could make transfers. And we thought the Cullis Wade, the junction area, was an exciting location for that in these preliminary stages. So, but that north route would start and leave Cullis Wade, go down University Drive, onto Main Street, West Main, and down to Long. At Long, it'll go through Brookville Garden, curve around through Carver, Hawassi, come up on Hospital Road, go into the hospital, make that U, come out through the Wellness Center, go back up to Doctor's Park, turn off into there, go around, come out, proceed on Hospital Road, going east, come back out to Jackson, go south, go all the way across, back to Russell. Right? Yeah, okay. Go down to Jackson, and then back to University Drive, terminating back at Cullis Way. Now, this is a flag-down system. You may ask, why a flag-down system? At this point, we don't know where the public and students will congregate to catch the shuttle. We know that over time, that if we go through a flag-down system and so we see a concentration of riders flagging us down in certain areas, we can then begin looking at a permanent stop. But that, again, this is preliminary, so we wanted to start it in that way. If we go to the south route, on the south route, again, we leave Cullis Way, go down Russell, turn left on Gillespie, go down to Jackson, take a left at that light, and then take a right on Wood. Go up through Wood and cut through the parking lot of Southern Food. That way we can get that population, those residents right there in that area, go out to the light, head west on Highway 12. We would make stops at Kroger, the Kroger Shopping Center, the Walmart Shopping Center, come back out, get on 12, veer west again, and head out west to potentially. Now this is something that we are looking at now, possible negotiation. We need a fair structure to satisfy the grant. Our grant requires us to collect $27,000 in fares. As you know, we have agreed that we will try our darndest not to charge any citizen anything for these rides. What we can do in the grant is contract. So we're looking at the possibility of contracting with major apartment complexes for us to service those complexes and use those fares as our local fare requirement for the grant. But so we'll go about a half a mile, potentially a half a mile west on Highway 12, service that area and come back up 12. We come all the way back up on Highway 12. There are no flag downs on Highway 12. No flag downs. We'll come back up to Spring Street and take that left at Spring. Come back up to Russell and come back to the university. That would be the north route. And again, you'll have the opportunity to ride those routes in the morning, to look at what we're doing, to discuss our plan. And our plan is, as we develop the system, as we're able to buy additional equipment, to expand routes, to include additional routes. At this point, with the equipment we have, we think the proposed routes are the best route, the most efficient routes for the university and the city as trial runs. Okay? So again, we look forward to having
9 o'clock in the morning.
9 o'clock in the morning, we'll meet you out front here, pick you up, take you on the routes, and give you the opportunity to give us some feedback.
Thank you, sir. Other citizens that would like to make comments this time?
Good evening to the Mayor and Board of Aldermen. The citizens been watching for a while, and we quite confused on some things. Said the Vice Mayor have been ill and come back. He's very irritable about a lot of things, and we don't understand that. But I know we do hope before the end of this year, we have a electric department and police department. The students are coming back, and we definitely do not want to have $200 and $300 light bills and be stuffed in that place. It's too little. We don't know how the crime rate is going to be. We don't want to be in a place too little and anything can happen. Those are some serious concerns of the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Anyone else would like to take a minute to say something publicly?
Hello, Mayor and Board. I'm Michelle Jones. I live at 408 Greensboro Street. I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank the board for what they did 2 weeks ago to make my neighborhood so much more livable. The stop signs and lower speed limits have really made an incredible difference on our street, in our neighborhood, and I do appreciate what you've done to help facilitate that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor, Board Alderman, last board meeting, y'all asked me to go to DEQ in Jackson, get y'all some information on applying for grants. I'm putting it in your hands.
Well, thank you very much. Could you state your name for the record so they can be?
Stan Sheridan.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I'm Janie Nixon, 510 Greensboro Street. I'd just like to second what Michelle said, that it's made a big difference. The stop signs are slowing people down, and also the reduced speed limit. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Anyone else at this time would like to get up and express their feelings or opinion? We will move on to the scheduled public appearances. We have a Larry Carr here, the Mississippi Fire Rating Bureau, for a presentation. Here, you're good at grants.
That's probably
That's right. Trash committee.
Mr. Chief. Mayor.
How you doing today?
Hey, Mr. Carr. I'm Larry Carr with the Mississippi State Rating Bureau, Jackson, Mississippi. I was invited, I had an email came in from the Chief Grantham, invited me to come up here at the request of your alderman, and that you may have some questions regarding maintaining your fire classification, fire insurance classification for the city of Starkville. And I'm here to answer any questions, but I'd like, if you don't mind, Mayor, to tell you that we are, I think you were presented with some material that told you a little bit about the Bureau, but we are a nonprofit or not-for-profit agency. We are not a state agency. However, we are regulated by the Department of Insurance, state of Mississippi. We do not work for the commissioner. However, as I said, he does regulate anything that we do. Any rate changes that we may have to be approved by that department. And we do not work for the insurance companies. It is mandated by law that they fund the Bureau. And at the end of the year, assessments that are not used by this Bureau are then returned to the companies. The assessments are based on premium dollars written in our state. Some people think we may work for the companies. We do not. It is a law passed in House Bill 693, passed in 1988. If you operate in the state of Mississippi, you will be assessed based on premium dollars written that will go to the Bureau. I thought it might bring anyone up to date that may have a question about the Bureau itself.
Are there any questions for any of the board members?
Just about that one aspect, or is that?
Anything, sir. I'm here because, as it states in our, about us, we're here to help you with anything you might need. I might tell you that we do, my department does come into your city and grade your municipality based on fire protection available in that city. And we do this on a 4-year cycle. We were here in 2002, and we were last here in 2005. Several letters have been written. I think the last letter, of course, was to the mayor about some things that we felt were improvements needed in order to maintain the classification the city now enjoys.
Mr. Carr, can you share with us a little bit about where we are from a classification standpoint, what those recommendations were, just kind of big picture?
Certainly. I can either read the letter, or I can, the letter dated 26 September 2005 to the mayor. Carbon copy, of course, was to Chief Grantham and to Mr. Delvin, who's public service director at that time. I'm not sure if he's here now, but anyway. They were improvements to better maintain your insurance classification. Now, the letter does state that the city does enjoy a fire insurance classification, and we are submitting improvements which, if fully complied with, will enable the city of Starkville to qualify for Class 4. So these are improvements that were
presented to the city in order to try to go to a lower class. However, the things that we also presented to the city to maintain was installing hydrants, and due to the growth of the city, an additional aerial apparatus would be installed at Station 2, which is a stational airport I'm sure you're all aware of. We then mentioned the training facility, but in order to maintain the current classification, the aerial device would be located, and this was an additional aerial device now, in addition to the one that's currently at Station 1. Located at Station 2 due to the latter district being served. There is now a requirement in your western portion of your municipality that requires an aerial device due to buildings that are 3 stories in height or more and large roof area buildings, such as your Walmarts, your Lowe's, several of your industries which are down on Airport Road, your 3-story apartments that are north of Highway 12, and since I was here prior to the chief's conference, I now see additional construction on Highway 12, 3-story apartments framed. Although thank goodness these are sprinkled, I do know that, but that is now developed into a latter district which needs a aerial device within 1 1/2 miles road distance. Currently, your aerial device that serves the city, and in addition to, you have a contract with the university to serve them. It's 4 miles from Station 1 to the extreme distance or city limits, if you will, which would be the new apartments that are now being constructed around some lake, and I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the lake.
Lakeside Place.
Okay, thank you. It's 1 1/2 miles to just past Louisville Street if you were going due west. So beyond Louisville Street, you begin to be charged deficiency points because you're now over the 1.5 miles, and that's how this is done. In addition to that, we're recommending that the city look at putting a station for an engine company to the northwest along the new 25 due to growth, and also to assist that latter company at Station 2 when it is engaged in or involved in a firefight. The additional the additional pumper would have to come out of Station 4 or possibly Station 3, depending on which side of Highway 12 it would be. We make these improvements, ladies and gentlemen, so that you will know and have plenty of time to look at it due to the growth, and you would know more about the growth anticipated than we do. Rather than we come in here and say, you've lost your insurance classification, you do not have a ladder truck, we don't do that to you. We try to anticipate the growth as you do and tell you what you need to better maintain your current classification. In addition to that, we've recommended that you possibly look at a station, either a relocate or a new station to the eastern portion, which would be around 12, a new 82, I guess would be the word for it, Highway 12, 82. We have also offered some options. Actually, this was the chief talking to us about some options. We first recommended a station be located at Reed and 25. Chief came back and asked us to look at a location, Garrett and Reed. And we then toured that area with the chief that day and felt that that would be sufficient. I think it had to do with apparently, well, I don't know what it had to do with, but apparently you could get the, well, okay, I didn't want to say that, but anyway, that would be sufficient. And we did run the run distance from that particular location to your extreme boundaries in your northwest portion of your city. In addition, we also ran the distance from that proposed station locations to a sister Station 2 ladder company. We then told them they could relocate 3 to the west. If he didn't build a station to the northeast, he could possibly run an engine and a ladder company out of Station 1. I apologize, gentlemen, I forgot. Sorry. He then came back with an option of possibly another location. Again, he apparently checked this, put the calculator to it, and determined apparently it was going to cost too much money to renovate and build or add on to Station 1. In addition, I think we're going to have to move his administrative office. Presented the plan to us, would this be sufficient? We said yes, which would be a station on the West Point, Old West Point, I'm sorry.
So, Mr. Carr, if I understood correctly, the according to the Ratings Bureau, for us to maintain a Class 5, we need to do 3, possibly 4 things. We need to add fire hydrants. We need to add a ladder truck at Station 2. We need to build a new engine company in the northwest quadrant of our city. And then the possible one is we need to relocate our eastern station. And so if, in other words, if we don't, for example, add an engine company, we are at risk of losing our Class 5 rating.
You mean if you were to comply with 3 of the 4?
Well, let's just suggest that we were able to do fire hydrants, we're able to do ladder truck, just for, as an example, but
Okay.
we aren't able to do an engine. I guess we're trying to make some decisions. Of course, these are million-dollar decisions, or multi-millions. How do you help us make those decisions and making those choices in addition to the public safety aspect of what we're doing?
We couldn't answer that question, to be very honest with you, Mr. Cox, because we would not know what was in place there if you were to complete or comply with 3 of the 4 recommendations. We have to make our recommendations based on what we feel is coming due to experience and things, new highways coming in, things like that. To tell you that you were to comply with 3 of the 4 would not endanger your class. I could not do that right now, because if I were to sit here right now and tell you that you wouldn't have a problem with it, and then I can come back in 09 and things are everywhere, and then I say to you, guess what? You don't have your engine company in place. And then Mr. Cox is going to say to me, well, you said it was all right. So answer to your question, sir, is I couldn't tell you. I would suggest to you that in order to better maintain, as the letter says, your insurance classification, that you would make those improvements. Now, we are an advisory bureau. We're not telling you have to do anything, sir. You do not have to do anything. We are an advisory bureau. We are simply trying to project what will be needed in this city in the year 2009.
Just one other question around the ratings we give for equipment. And certainly the mayor of Columbus has been a great advocate in a sense of some of the equipment, once it gets to be 20 years old, we're having to scrap in a sense and buy new. And he argues that we have airplanes that are older than that, that are clearly functional. These equipment, other than its birth date, they're clearly functional. How, as a city, can we represent that? Is this something that's decided at the legislature? Is it decided by y'all in the Ratings Bureau? How does this age of equipment, specific to these, these million-dollar vehicles, how do we impact that? And do you have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, the age of and when you're saying equipment, I think you're meaning our pumpers and our trucks or
Yes.
ladders. Okay. National standards dictate that most parts are kept on a custom apparatus for 20 years. After that point of time, the manufacturer will not keep parts at hand. Again, you're probably going to need to address that with the chief here. He's a lot more learned than that, because he's had to go out and probably buy parts from days gone by. But that's the standard that we use with regards to when you begin to need replacing that equipment. Now, are you going to lose your classification on that unit at 20 years? The answer would be no. But we are going to begin to deduct points. And if you are what we consider to be a strong classification, in this case a strong 5, because there are 500 deficiency points in each class, that could adversely affect you. If your units are beginning to reach the age of 20, we're going to send you a letter saying you need to begin making plans, as we did in this letter, where we recommend that you, although not a requirement at this time, the city should begin making plans to replace engine number 3 in the year around 2008. So we're just basically telling you that it's something the city needs to begin making plans to do. We will begin to deduct points on that unit if it has been kept up. Pump tests are run annually on it. All the other tests it has to go through shows it to be still in good shape. The points will not be that significant. If we're beginning to look at your units, which in this case they are tested annually, but I'm talking in general now, we're going to tell the city that in all probability within a year or two you're going to lose all your points on that unit. But that's because the unit was not kept up to date as regards tests, making sure the pumps operate, things of that nature. It's just now ladder trucks, we're looking at around 25, because those are expensive, as you said, units. Then we would probably send you a letter about the 25th year saying you need to begin making plans. if I'm in here on the 25th year of an aerial device, I'm gonna tell you, you probably need to begin making plans to replace that unit. But I'm not coming back for 4 more years. But it lets you, the city, know that you need to begin making plans to replace that so that it would not adversely affect. You know, once you get behind the fire protection, it's hard to catch up. And that's what we did. Is it written in stone that we're gonna jerk your rating in the 20th year of that pump, or no? But if you talk to any fire chief, and you certainly have one of our most learned chiefs in the state, not saying because he's here, but because he's in the Chiefs Association, which I also belong to, they begin to wear. After 20 years of that equipment sitting on the chassis frames, they begin to wear. The pump begins to leak. That's just what happens with a 20-year-old piece of equipment. When it's used in emergency situations. It cannot be breaking down on you. You won't have time to take it to the local body shop and get it fixed at the pump shop. So after 20 years, the city needs to begin making plans. But that is a national. We didn't make that up, the Bureau, by that I meant. That's part of the American Insurance Institute has come up with that idea. There's been studies done by the Los Angeles Fire Chiefs Association. They all agree to that. But it's just something we tell you ahead of time, you need to begin making plans. So you're not caught by surprise.
Appreciate you coming on.
Turner.
Other questions?
I'd like to know, give us an explanation of the difference between a 4 and a 5 rating, how it affects the citizens of Starkville.
Okay. The insurance classification itself, and we grade on 1 through 10. 1 is the best, or the best fire protection available, 10 being no recognized protection. The city of Starkville is 5 currently, and a 4 would affect your homeowners, 1 or 2 family owner-occupied dwellings, would not affect them at all. Your commercial properties, if you reduce to a 4, would receive benefits from it. So if the city were to drop to a 4, it would benefit all your commercial properties. That would be anything above a 1 or 2 family owner-occupied dwelling.
Okay, let's go to the commercial side.
Okay.
If the compliance code requires all commercial new construction buildings to have sprinkler systems, and how does that affect this rating?
First off, the insurance on that building from the private carrier that's writing the insurance is going to be a lot less than a non-sprinkled building. But from the standpoint of a city having an ordinance, if that's what we're talking about here, it continues to keep the fire load, which is what we use to determine how many engine companies you need or how many ladder companies you need. It keeps that fire load, what we call needed fire flow, down lower. A lot of our municipalities are going to a sprinkler ordinance on commercial properties, or anything over 10,000 feet or 15, whatever it may be. It maintains or keeps the needed fire flow, average needed fire flow to city Starkville lower, so that you won't have a high fire load that we've determined based on actually figuring the fire load of 5 of your highest rated buildings and moving your fire load up to maybe 6,000, which requires more engine companies and more ladders, and so that's how it would affect the classification of the city. Again, the citizen that would put a fully sprinklered system in their building is going to receive from their insurance company a lower rate, obviously. But that's how it would affect the city, which is, I think, what you were wanting to know about as far as how they would. So, you know, I would recommend the city look at that. It continues to maintain a lower fire load for the majority of the buildings in your city. This would be on new construction, obviously. You cannot, I don't think there's something to make, go in there and make the other buildings will have to be grandfathered in, obviously.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Gotta be dismissed.
Brian Kelly, I think you're the next individual here to,
I'm Brian Kelly. I appreciate the board's time tonight. I've drafted a letter summarizing what I'd like to speak about tonight. Does anyone not have a copy of that letter?
You put it in the box.
It was in the boxes.
Anyone like it?
Yeah.
Who doesn't have one?
It's placed in your box.
Do you have an extra copy? We can share it if you've got, is this extra? All right.
I'll be brief. What I'm here about tonight is I'd like to request that the board take measures to immediately institute some type of traffic control measures at the corner of Maxwell Street and University Drive. That area is a home to currently 4 restaurants and bars, and in the next month or two, I believe that number will go up to 5, with currently 2 bars being on each side of the road, and obviously there will be a 3rd bar on one of the sides of the road. It's a is everyone on the board familiar with the area I'm talking about, University and Maxwell? Okay. It's already a heavily pedestrianized area, and with these restaurants and bars continuing to catch on and become more popular, it's going to be even more pedestrianized. With the upcoming fall semester and football season, I think the traffic's going to increase dramatically there. Currently, there is I tracked it off today, and I think it's 0.7 miles between the red light at the BP Coconuts and the next traffic control measure on University Drive, which is going to be the stop sign at the football stadium. And like I said, I think it's a huge potential liability to the city of Starkville right now, with the potential fatality and severe injuries that could take place there. And I just think it's a potential life-saving measure that should be instituted immediately. Does anyone have any questions?
Questions from any of the board members?
Mayor, maybe this is something that our consulting engineer and police chief can look at and give us some recommendation at a future meeting. I think they're well experienced and have the qualifications to give us a very, substantive report back at a future meeting.
Mr. Perkins, if I might, I've thought that as well, and the city engineer has known about this problem since November, so approximately 9 months have passed. And I would hate for that time period to lapse again before something is done. As you'll see in that.
May I interrupt just a moment? He is, I spoke with the city engineer this afternoon, and he is in process of designing something that would eliminate with a type of crosswalk that would have a smooth rise in it and go out. He has studied some California code, some other issues in regard to that, and told me that in about a week or 10 days that he would have recommendations for a standard that would be used through the whole city in regard to some type of process that would allow people to cross the street and slow the traffic down. He has been on vacation for a month or so, and he's back, and spoke with him about this, and he indicated to me that he is setting a standard that would be used through the whole city in regard to this. And I said, Bill, we're not interested in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but he suggested that it would be forthcoming.
Okay. He's under the understanding that it should be within that 3-week period?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to recommend, I saw the Starkville Daily News today. I think it said 16 days until Carolina, and I'd like to recommend the board make a goal, if not deadline, to have at least some kind of a temporary measure put into place by that time. I noticed the stop signs that Ms. Mixon and Ms. Jones expressed their gratitude for, and the labor portion of that anyway seemed to go up overnight. And even as a temporary measure, if that's not what the policy is going to indicate, be there forever, I would like to recommend that those be put up as soon as possible. I know Mr. Perkins is an attorney as well as Mr. Favor, and the liability that lies with the city of a fatality that could happen in that area, especially with the engineer of the city being on notice for work for 9 months now, is high.
As the alderman that represents that ward, I agree that that particular area, and one other not far from it, have been 2 problem areas on University Drive, and I would like to try to come back and have some sort of recommendation by the next meeting, which I believe will be before the first game. I want to work with Bill Webb on that, follow up and try to.
I believe one of the things we can do is possibly have our chief to look at that. Is that right, Chief? And if it requires like a yellow blinking light that we have on scales, is that not a call that you could make in regard to the safety aspect of that?
Yes, sir, I'd like.
Is that not something we could do immediately if we need be?
I'd like to get Mr. Webb and see what we can do.
But I think in discussing the crosswalk aspect and a means of calming the traffic, that he had some pretty good suggestions in regard to design on that. And he's not far off in doing that.
Okay. I'd just again like to express, I think it'd be prudent for us to try to do that at least before the first football game.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have any problem with this. I think it is a good idea. My first of knowing about this and this request was when I read it in the paper today that it was going to be on the agenda, and it was said that the notices were put in our box. Well, maybe so, but this is my first time seeing this, and I'm noting the date on it is August 15th, 2006, and it was hand-delivered, so somewhere I've missed mine. But from the impression is that this is something that we've known about and we haven't done anything about. It is the way it's coming across to me, and I just want it clear that this is the first time I've seen anything about this.
Mr. Mayor?
I think that was just put in your box this morning.
That was put in your box this morning, but the city engineer, Bill Webb, has known about it since November.
If I may.
Yes.
We didn't know.
Mr. Webb has been working on a policy for both crosswalks and speed humps. And what we were trying to do is get something that has been well thought out and well planned, and we've taken from other cities and tried to put something together that would fit Starkville. And we're planning on bringing that on the 5th of September to the meeting. Obviously, Mr. Webb has been gone, so there's some things that delayed it, but it is about to be in full bloom, and you will see it on the 5th.
I would request that a temporary measure be put into place prior to the 5th, prior to the first football game. I think it would be prudent from a liability and a life-saving standpoint.
Chief Lindley, is there anything that can be done maybe on, say, the game day before the September 5th meeting?
We'll come up with something.
I need to do that in the form of a motion. I was just requesting whether I need to go ahead and make a motion as far as directing the police chief to enact some sort of measure the day of the game before the September 5th meeting.
Well, I think we just mentioned that we would be taking a look at something that would be done before then, such as a yellow light or something that would blink that would caution people to slow down. People speed all the time on that particular stretch, just simply from the fact that there's a long stretch through there.
Like I said, it's 0.7 miles between any kind of traffic regulation in that area. And the only other area I think is that pedestrianized downtown, which has got 3 traffic lights and crosswalks on it. And it's certainly the only other area with 4 or 5 bars and restaurants in a 100-yard radius of each other. I think each day that goes by is just another day of liability for the city.
Is that not something we can look at maybe tomorrow and come up with some suggestions? There are several things we probably do.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's dark before I would tell you that I was sitting here listening to that, recalling 2 very tragic accidents that occurred in
Right there at this spot,
so
yeah.
past number of years. One young lady lost a leg, and another was crippled, brain injury. Those were pedestrians trying to cross in that immediate area. So it has already been a problem.
And anyone who's out there on a nightly basis sees the number of pedestrians and the number of pedestrians almost right
And
at
of course, we're talking about that was prior to the current situation with businesses and restaurants.
Thank you. Brings us to the mayor's business. I have recommended that we allow Sharon Boyd as the head of the sanitation department to participate in the partnership leadership program. She's very willing to participate in this. I think the partnership has extended this for several weeks in order to get additional people to participate in the leadership program.
Well, I
Mr.
think-
Mayor, excuse me, Richard, go ahead.
I just was gonna say, I think it's great, and I was gonna make a motion for approval, but I'll let you go ahead and speak, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Of course, certainly participation in a leadership program of this sort is a good thing. I would assume that we would offer the opportunity as the program years progress to any of the department heads and perhaps middle managers, depending on the situation, to participate if they would be able to. Of course, the leadership program is a good program.
We just had, if you remember, the electric department, we had a young man that participated in this last leadership class.
Shane Grant.
That's right, and it's probably a good thing for the city to, as Mr. McLaurin had said, to take advantage of sending folks to participate in this leadership program. One of the things that they're looking for is people who are already in somewhat of a leadership position to expand upon their abilities and so forth.
Well, I'll go ahead then and make a motion to approve the request to send Sharon Boyd to the 2006-2007 Leadership Forum.
That's second.
We have a motion with a second. All those in favor say aye.
Just a point of
Excuse
clarification.
me. Yes.
From a budget standpoint, is this, do we have a line item for this? Is it gonna come
I
out of the
think it'd probably come out of the
sanitation
sanitation department, is that
And
not
the-
correct?
budget? And what line item would it come from? Is it, do we have $600 in an education line item? This would go in, this would happen in 2006, is when we'd be required to pay them. Because if we don't, we'll either have to, you know, in essence, we're going, I don't believe we have the money in the budget, so it's part of the motion, just, we should be clear about increasing that to accommodate the board order.
Would you
Or
make
letting one other line item in that
Yeah.
budget balance at all, which of course is what you're looking for.
Alderman Cox, were you offering that as an amendment?
Just, I didn't know if anyone had looked into that, whether we had a line item associated with this and whether it had funds remaining in that, so that we wouldn't have to do a separate budget amendment at a later time.
It probably, in all fairness, is not, but I think that we should.
But we wouldn't have to do a separate budget amendment. We're looking at the bottom line of the sanitation department budget, and one line item can balance the other.
Any further questions? We have a motion with a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. We move on to board business. The first item we have here, we moved Mr. Mordine to the first item on in place of considering placing no parking signs, which has been removed. Patrick.
Mr. Mayor, Board of Aldermen, my name is Patrick Nordine of 205 Louisville Street, and I'm here today to introduce the idea of Greensboro and Whitfield bike lanes. We're going to wait a second here for this projector to start up. I'd like to take this opportunity to applaud you for calming the traffic on Whitfield Street, especially for the children at Armstrong School and all the numerous families with small children in all the neighborhoods between in the areas affected by the traffic calming that you've accomplished so far. It may take a few minutes for it to warm up here.
Patrick, if it doesn't come up, you may have to reboot your laptop with it connected.
Okay. To save time, I'll probably just go from my laptop here. Let me try to turn this to face you guys here. I'm sorry for the public here who can't see my presentation. Can everybody see this okay? I'm gonna try to see it myself as well.
Not really.
Just boot it and let it
Just
go.
boot it and go on.
Boot it and go on?
Yeah, let's see if you can get it up, yeah.
Took a nap and didn't want to wake up again.
Do you have
Patrick.
some help to offer, Richard?
I was gonna say, press that button again and put it back on auto search, and then while you reboot your computer, it should come up.
It should, we got it to work.
The passage of time. We have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your health care needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in health care.
And the category of comments from mayor and board was up there, and I did not think to do
Well,
it.
let's go
May I
back and
do
do
so
that.
now? A comment?
Yes, go ahead.
One thing I forgot to mention in the comments from mayor and board, since it was not written on the agenda, I wanted to take the opportunity to commend Clark Roman and the Park and Recreation Department for helping host a newcomers club meeting around some 50 or so people, a third of whom approximately were brand new to the community. He helped the Newcomers Club arrange the facility, buffed it up, cleaned it up. All the ladies in attendance were very much impressed by the facility and by the hospitality that they received, not only from the Newcomers Club itself, but from the Park and Recreation Department. And Scott, I'd like to thank you for tending to that, because this is an impression we need to make on newcomers to the community. Thank you.
And I don't know if I, at the last meeting, commended the Parks and Rec in regard to the soccer camp that we had here, but again, the hat's off to you for great participation in regard to that. Are you up now?
I'm up now, and I thank you for your patience.
Yes. I was about to lose it.
Like I said, I'm Patrick Nordine of 205 Louisville Street, and I'm here as a representative of Starkville in Motion. And I'm here to present an idea that we've been toying around with that now seems to be possible now that we've reduced the speeds and calmed the traffic along Whitfield and Greensboro. With the reduced speed, we have improved safety, and we have an opportunity now to expand on the success of the University Drive bike lanes. We can create dedicated bike lanes along Greensboro and Whitfield Street, extending from about Welch's Funeral Home to the Avenue of the Patriots. This will enhance your traffic calming efforts. This will make it safer for pedestrians because it'll get the cyclists off the sidewalks, improves visibility, and this plan that we've got right now will accommodate emergency vehicles without any problems. We're looking at an issue of connectivity here. And what we're trying to do is connect the different neighborhoods along Whitfield Street and Greensboro. We've got several neighborhoods. We've got the Green Oaks neighborhood. We've got a new park at the Avenue of Patriots and Whitfield Street. The Lakes neighborhood. Armstrong Middle School is along that way. You've got the historic Greensboro Street neighborhood and the Greensboro Center where church services are held. You've got the downtown merchants, as well as the churches in the downtown area, and the Mississippi State campus. What we're proposing is somewhat similar to the University Drive bike lanes, except we will not have to swerve the bike lanes down the street because we've got the width that we need and we don't have any parking along those streets. What we're looking at is 5 feet of width on each side of the street for the bike lanes. We've gone out and done some preliminary measurements, and it seems like that is possible. This will provide us additional benefits because it complements Starkville's comprehensive plan. It will allow us to have a more livable and competitive community, and I applaud you for your ranking in that top 50 best small towns in America. I think that this plays a major role in that status. It promotes healthy lifestyles in our community. It grants greater access to the downtown restaurants, churches, and businesses. It's an alternative mode of transportation. With gas prices at $3 a gallon, that's a lot different than when I was in college 10 years ago, when you could pay 98 cents and get around. Some students that I know now are paying $75 to fill up their tank. It's a big difference from 10 years ago. I talked to some students this morning at work, and they live in this area that we're talking about. They love the idea of the University Drive bike lane, of being able to ride from where they live to, one of them goes to Cross Point Church. He likes being able to ride to church on Sundays. He likes being able to ride to school. And they were excited when I talked about this morning. It also supports our safe routes to school efforts. It makes it safer for Armstrong Middle School students. There will be little, if any, lost parking with this plan, and the cost will be less than that of the University Drive project. We've got some work ahead of us. We're going to be working with the city engineer, hopefully fine-tuning this to make it something that we'll be able to go ahead with this fall. We will be contacting the local businesses, or the businesses and the local stakeholders. We'll be talking to Starkville Public Schools, talking to First United Methodist Church, Welch Funeral Home, the residents in that area, downtown area, Whitfield Street, Long Street, Lindbergh, the Lakes, Green Oaks, and Louisville, and the businesses of the Greensboro General Dentistry. I think that's Dr. Long's office, as well as McAlpin Law Offices. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick. Anybody have any questions of Patrick?
Patrick, thank you for your presentation this evening. Do you have in your mind sort of a timetable on this slide, the work ahead, quote unquote, when you can accomplish
We're looking
that
at about a month, actually.
Okay. So from now till, say, the middle of September roughly, contacting these folks and making sure that, you know, y'all crossed all your T's, dotted the I's, and coming back or through Alderman Cox or McLaurin as members of Starkville in motion to this board, or some form bringing that report back to us?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This brings us down to report on the Recycling, Rubbish, and Trash Committee.
Mr. Mayor and Board, the Trash Committee, as it has been called, Alderman Davis, Alderman Mills, and I have met recently to initiate discussion on the recycling matter that is coming to the forefront as a area of public discussion. The committee has met. We decided and report to you initially that we thought the first thing that should be done is to restore in the city the 4 locations that we previously had for citizens to drop off recyclables. Prior to getting into the full discussion of the recycling matter that has been proposed for the city, we thought that at a minimum what needed to be done, and done quickly, is reestablishment of the drop-off bins for recycling. I want to thank Alderman Mills for taking a forefront here and driving around and looking and poking and so forth in terms of available sites. And of course, keep in mind, already still established is the site at the water treatment facility near the fire station at Academy Road and South Montgomery. That still is in operation. Also in operation is the recycling drop-off point at Synergetics on Highway 12. Also, of course, for possibility of a drop-off is Mr. Sheridan's Recycling Center over on, what's the name of the road? C.C. Clark off of Miley Drive, runs in front of the Coca-Cola plant, that road, the side road off of that. What remained, of course, were the two locations for citizens to use in a more northern part of town. Alderman Mills and the fire chief took a look at a number of possibilities, and we come to you with the recommendation tonight that a recycling drop-off facility be established at the fire station on North Jackson Street, Highway 389, and that the recycling drop-off facility be reestablished in a proper area not to impede handicap access to the park in an area adjacent to that, located at the fire station on Lampkin Street and Montgomery, that particular area. Essentially, or if you will recall, the drop-off facility used to be in the area where the park is now located. I am told, based on Alderman Mills's looking at the area along with the fire chief, that they think the possibility exists for reestablishing a site, not of course in the same spot in the middle of the park, but adjacent to the park. And while the site at the fire station on North Jackson Street may take a little bit of force account work, I'm told there's a small ditch that may need a culvert, a proper culvert, installed to facilitate that. We of course would recommend that the appropriate city force account unit be given that particular task. Alderman Davis, Alderman Mills, does this sum up our discussion to this particular point?
Yeah, I think
And we are in a position, are we not, to make this as a recommendation and in the form of a motion, and I would so move.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. You've heard the report. Are there any questions?
And so when will the recycling canisters be replaced on the north side of town? I'd like to put a specific time because it's been some time since we've had convenient access on the north side of town to these recycling canisters, and I'd like to put a date specific if you will.
I have no objection at all to a date specific. Alderman Mills, do you have an estimate as to how soon, all things considered, that this might be done?
Well, I'd like to see the one on Montgomery Street at the end of the fire station. It could be put back within a week.
Or less.
Yeah, or less. But, Mr. Sheridan, are you aware of where we're talking about on the north lot of the fire station on 389, where there's a little small ditch that goes around the north end by the tower?
Yes, sir. Pretty much I am.
Okay, would you look at that and get back with us and tell us about how much coverage you need there and so forth? And I'd say it's gonna take a couple of weeks to get that one where we can put the bin back, because he's gonna have to have a cover before he can put the bins back there.
But by the end of the week, you think we can have it at Fire Station 1?
Yeah.
At Russell Street?
Right.
One thing I'll say
I'll
is,
work with Mr. Sheridan on getting that covered on and so forth out there off of Garrett Road at 389.
I might have a culvert to give you.
The mayor says he might have a culvert to give us.
That would be
So,
great.
if that be the case, let's certainly take advantage
That
of
would
that.
be great.
well, one thing I would say is if you look at the map that the university provided to us earlier, we're talking about having the new 389 up here, then replacing the one at 1, leaving the one at Synergetics and the one at Academy in South Montgomery. So it's a better distribution of our 4.
Trying to do a
sets.
north, south, east, west as best we can, given the number of obstacles. A time certain, you want to say by the,
Well, as long as, I guess, again, this convenience factor that so many of the people on the north side of town have been concerned about, as long as we're representing that we can have one canister out by the end of the week at Fire Station 1, I appreciate this culvert work. It might take a little bit of time, and I'm sure we'll be patient on the north side of town until we're able to get that. But one that we know we can put in, as long as we can get it in this week, I'm comfortable being able to represent back. And I know Alderwoman Self, she's heard some of the same concerns that I have.
so we don't have to do a date certain, but we should move with all possible dispatch. And of course, keep in mind, inherent in this motion, Mayor, is any of those city departments that need to provide assistance in force account service, we would expect that they contribute to the project, whatever, whoever is appropriate.
Do you think it'd be helpful if we put something in the paper about we're reestablishing this and where the locations are and so forth?
Certainly, I'm not sure I would publish that until they have been reestablished.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Only if they've been reestablished, don't get too far ahead, but that's probably a good idea. We have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes. Report from the Technology Committee, Richard.
Oh, I'll keep it fairly short. At our last tech committee meeting, we listened to software demonstrations for 2 separate departments. The first one was made by a company called Main Street Software, and it was for software to help facilitate some of the functions within the city clerk's office, such as payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable. And this was in part response to some concerns over the fact that they have to deal with a lot of Excel spreadsheets that are sometimes difficult to manage or update or even change, sometimes taking even days whenever there's a problem. After we listened to them, another company called Syscon came in. They gave us a demonstration of their software, which was for the court clerk's office, and they're the software company that the city of Columbus uses. After we listened to both of their presentations, we decided to at least wait and hear from at least one other competitors for each of those departments as far as software goes before we come back before the board with an official recommendation.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Mayor, just one thing. Chief Grantham, in my report, and I should have said this, it was represented to me that while you were not necessarily wildly enthusiastic about some of those locations, you thought those would work for our recycling. Is that correct? I won't be sure.
If they'll contact me before they just run up there and drop them, but to reinforce, Station 1 has never had a light at night. I mean, Station 1, there's never been any lighting there, so there's gonna have to be a pole and light, not only at 1, but also at 3 too, because there's no lights in there, so. But, the only thing I question about Station 1, in the pie-shaped area, they're actually gonna have to block the road to load off. They're not gonna be able to run when we finish that parking area for the handicapped, and they've been very observant of the park and telling us what to do and what not to do. So when we lay that parking in there for handicapped, they're not gonna be able to run their trucks up into that area like they always have and back in there and do it. So we're gonna have to either create another, knock the curb out or whatever so they can get in there. But I'm willing to work with them the best I can.
Chief, in speaking and following up about your comments about the park, let me just take this opportunity to publicly tell you that you've done a great job with the park, and it's a very immaculate looking area over there, and you have really substantially improved it with that park. So we just want to share that with you publicly.
Thank you. And that's the only concern I had to start with was handicap parking. From the very beginning, they asked for handicap, and the 2 ladies that were guiding us through the width of the sidewalks, we cannot park them in front of our trucks. We can't park them across in our other parking lots, so we had to create an area down there for them to get to the parking area. So, and obviously the recycling bins, I think there needs to be some lessons on littering too, because they have a tendency to just throw newspapers out if they're full, or just drive by and throw stuff out, and that was a sightly issue right there in the downtown area. Was another reason why I asked to be moved, and I totally asked on my own. Sharon was not a part of that. I asked her, could she move it so I could get the parking area and that sort of thing. So that's the reason why I asked for that corner to be cleaned up a little.
Thank you, Chief. This brings us down, Matt, to the report from the Budget Committee.
Just very briefly, again, the budget team's been meeting since our last board meeting, made significant progress. We've been working on a line item by line item review and can report that with the strong growth in sales tax and ad valorem revenues, that we're in a much better position this year than perhaps we've been in some time. And we'll have a first draft of our recommendations available to the mayor and board on the 22nd of August, which would be next Monday, I believe. And then it would be our intention to schedule a workshop with the board so that we can receive your consultation and general direction before we move forward with our final recommendations. And then to take the next item on that agenda would be to request authorization to publish notice of a public hearing on the budget on September the 5th, as well as a public hearing on September the 12th, and that we would potentially have consideration of the adoption of the budget on that September 12th date. And because it does require a publication, I need to go ahead and request that authorization in the form of a motion so that the city clerk can go ahead and execute that.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We've got 2 seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? In your packet, you'll find a fuel consumption for the month of July. There's no legislation needs to be taken on that. But if you'll take a look at that, I can't see that we're really down a whole lot, or actually we're up a little bit. Take a look at that at your leisure. If you have any suggestions at a future date, we're willing to hear from you. We're down to a report from the Telecom Audit Group. Richard, I believe that's you, isn't it?
Well, it was the Technology Committee that had recommended the approval of this, and we have a representative, I think, from there who'd like to speak.
How long will this report take, do you anticipate?
I can go maybe 3 to 5 minutes.
How about 3?
Okay.
That's good.
Nah, 4.
Okay. I'm Wes Overton. I'm an auditor with Telecom Audit Group. We were contracted with the city to conduct a review of the telecommunication billing. You should have a summary, a savings summary. If you don't, I brought extras. Essentially what we have here is, during the course of the review, we've been able to find that at the bottom of the sheet, the first phase of the audit was to look for errors and ask for refunds. These are listed, each item that we were able to find that was a billing error, and then we requested refunds for those. Currently, we've recovered $254 for the city. We have a lot of these are pending. Some of these items are lines that no longer existed, that the phone companies were charging you for. We're able to go back 6 to 7 years on those, and we're waiting for the calculations for those to be made. The next portion is at the top, and this lists all of the errors that we were able to eliminate, as well as if there was items that were no longer needed, and then we were able to take advantage of the city's current Centrex system that's in place. We're also able to update the pricing plans on the cell phones, as well as with your long distance carrier. But total monthly savings as a result from the audit was $1,400 a month, which adds up to $17,000 a year that we were able to save off your telecommunications expense. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Got any questions? Thank you very much. Brings us down to consideration of orders prohibiting the use of Jake brakes within the corporate limits of Starkville. Is that yours, something?
Well, I asked that it be put on the agenda, and I believe it didn't make it to the packet, but on the table, you should find a copy of ordinance number 2006-8 for your consideration. And basically what this is I've had citizens that, if you will again refer to the map provided by the university, live on West Bound Street, and if you don't know where that is, if you can find about where Walmart is, and westbound terminates about straight into the bypass, and they have complained about the noise caused by Jake brake practices used along the bypass and/or in that general area. And this is an item that, in doing a little research on it, the city had previously had problems on what is now Highway 182. And I guess the chief could enlighten us on those issues.
Like a suggestion. Technically, they're air brakes. Jake Brakes is a Jake brake is a specific company that makes air brakes. And there's been some litigation where Jake brakes were prohibited to affect and other air brakes. So even though we all know we're talking about a Jake brake, it might be better to say air brake.
So Jake Brake is a brand name?
Yeah.
Correct.
That's
It's
a
like
system.
jacuzzi.
Huh?
Brake system.
Yeah. Brand name.
Would it be better than to replace every instance of Jake brake with air brake in this ordinance?
Attorney Favor, any thoughts or opinions?
I think that'd be appropriate, if that's what the chief is saying. But in all the ordinances that I looked at, they refer to them as Jake brakes, so.
Yeah.
Have you had an opportunity to look at this ordinance? Does everything look in proper form here?
Attorney Favor wrote the ordinance.
He did? That's good. Then I guess you've looked at it, haven't you?
I have.
Well, not necessarily.
Okay, do we have a motion that we?
You know, we have it reduced to writing, and I have no problem with replacing the term Jake brake for air, what term do you suggest, Chief?
I believe it's air, Mr. Bills, what would be the correct terminology? It's air brakes.
Air brake systems or
Air
similar?
brakes.
Air brakes is not, Jake brakes is a system of braking with reversing the engine.
That's right. It makes, that's where you
And
hear all those
it's,
trucks just.
It's very, it's a very good system, but most cities dislike them very much because they are very agitated.
Right.
And I don't know what area you're talking about, but I'd say the whole bypass can be affected by Jake brakes. If the guy gets down on them enough, they can get very, very loud.
Question is whether or not we should use the terminology air brakes or Jake brakes in the ordinance.
It'd have to be Jake brakes.
I think you have to use Jake brakes.
All right,
Yes.
If you go through the state of Alabama, they have every town from Tuscaloosa to Gordo to Reform, Jake brakes prohibited.
Well, then, and also I believe the city of West Point, Columbus also prohibit with similar language in their ordinances as well. So with that being the case, I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance number 2006-8 as presented in writing on the table.
Second.
We have a motion and a second that we adopt this ordinance. We've had some discussion here.
Mayor, I just one quick question. This really isn't about the ordinance, I guess, itself, but are we going to put up any sort of signage that says Jake brakes prohibited? Because I hadn't had a chance to read over this.
I think the appropriate signage would follow as well.
Okay. Is
And
that,
then in a separate motion, or
is
just
that in
if
here, or?
miraculously
do we-
happens?
I think if we request the state highway department will put them up.
We'll make a separate motion.
Okay, we will each vote on this. Richard, how do you vote?
Aye.
Matt Cox?
I'm doing a roll.
I guess.
Sumner Davis?
Aye.
P.C. McLaurin?
Yes.
Jim Mills? Roy A. Perkins?
Yay.
Jeanette South?
Yay.
All right.
And now, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we direct the appropriate city staff to ensure that signage is put up in conspicuous places to warn motorists and drivers of our ordinance.
Thank you.
Second?
In a timely manner, at your discretion in a timely manner, Mr. Mayor.
That will be no problem.
Does this also need to be published?
Yeah,
The
it
ordinance
should.
Yeah,
does
probably does.
specify that.
Do we have a second of that?
We'll make a third motion to
Okay.
direct for publishing.
Richard, did you second that?
Yes.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
And,
Did you have one more?
well, I mean, just to, we'll, out of an abundance of caution for Alderman Cox, direct the city clerk to make sure that this is published in the manner provided by state law in, by the end of the week.
Second.
That was
a motion.
When did you want it to take effect?
All right, all those in favor of the motion
30
that
days after.
this be published,
Pass it.
and I think we have a motion and a second, all those say aye, they're in favor. All those opposed? All right, before we get into departmental business. All right. We'll take a 5-minute break.
The passage of time. We have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your health care needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in health care.
Well, the evening is over with. It brings us down to departmental business. The first item is the airport. We have a representative from the airport here tonight, Ms. Brule.
There's no one here available tonight. If you'd like to do something with it, other than that, the paperwork is in the packet for you.
Mr. Mayor and Board, I would motion to accept the engineering contract with Clearwater Consultants for the 2006 Airport Improvement Project, project number 3-28-068-011-2006 for taxiway extension, T-Hangar addition, a corporate taxiway, and a T-Hangar road addition.
Do we have a second to that? You did make that motion.
I did.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The second item,
The second item is authorization to process and pay payment number 5 to Clearwater Consultants for Airport Improvement Project number 3-28-068-010-2005 for apron construction and overlay, pay request number 5 in the amount of $18,132.
do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
We have a motion with a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Brings us down to Building Codes Planning Department. The first item has been moved to executive session at the request of the Vice Mayor. The next item would be a request for authorization for Dale Reed to attend 2 certified building official seminars in Louisiana on September the 5th through the 8th, and permission to take the CBO test in Vicksburg, I believe, right after that in September.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? It brings us down for the request by Technology Mills for a site plan review located in the Thad Cochran Research Technology and Economic Development Park. I think you have in your packet a copy of this, and we have the engineering firm of Pritchard is here tonight to represent them.
Mayor and Board, you should be aware that at the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved the site plan review with the following exception, that they approved it provided that as a legal non-conforming use that was contingent on the approval of the Planning Office District Overlay, which has been removed due to some setback concerns by Ms. Richardson. So you need to have that information, that there was a contingency approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Based that this overlay would be approved, is that correct?
Correct, because the site plan review is based on, basically, and Jason can correct me, but it's based on the requirements of this overlay district.
It's not necessarily, it meets the requirements, but I didn't even have this.
Right, but I'm saying they made it a contingency on their site plan approval that would be approved by this board, but that's been removed due to some, nothing to do with this group, but it's due to some setback concerns that may come up later that Ms. Richardson wanted to address that need to be sent back to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
And is this not a project that is based upon construction that goes on? Is that right?
That is a possibility, yes.
And that you're talking about another month's delay here.
I'm just telling the board can do whatever it wants to do. I need to make the board aware that what the contingency was. This board can approve it also contingent on that being approved if it wants to. But I'm just telling you, and if you read the minutes, it's reflected in the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that was the contingency of which they approved this site plan review. But you can approve it, that's an advisory board, as you all know, and you can approve it with or without the contingency. I give you that for information purposes only.
And Mayor, my name, Mayor and Board, Jimmy Langdon with Technology Mills, and that is the case. We're concerned with a further delay. We have tenants that we are discussing leasing the building with now, and they're very anxious. It's our understanding that it's definitely a true need in the greater Starkville area for this Class A office space. And so it is somewhat critical that we proceed so that we can secure these tenants, so that in turn we can secure our financing for the project.
So you're getting down to where months and days are critical this time.
Exactly.
What again is the problem, or was the problem, with the planned office district overlay?
Well, I was just told this before the meeting, and Alderman Cox can probably illuminate some on that, but it's my understanding there's regarding setbacks on the streets, that once the streets are taken into the city to meet the city street requirements, the setbacks would have to be 200 feet, and that would cause a problem with the outline plan out there. And so what they need to do is they need to ask for a variance from the Planning and Zoning Commission to allow the setbacks to be a different width, or less than 200 feet. Is that?
Yeah, what Ms. Richardson represented was that when the overlay district was established, it was based on the current setbacks within the research park, which are 50 feet. And her concern is when the roads are officially designated over to the city, once they're brought up to spec within the research park, that our classifications within the city would require a different setback. And while they needed to research that, she requested that the item be pulled because it was not their intention when they created this overlay district to affect this project or any other. And so that was why she pulled it. I'm of the opinion we need to move forward with this. We are indeed well short of office space in this type, and I think that we can move forward with approval here tonight and take care of that other minor concern, which didn't deal with the essence of the plan, the new overlay district. It's really a fine point, and out of an overabundance of caution, it was removed, but we shouldn't hold up the development of this office space.
So is that a form of a motion to move forward?
Well, unless there's other questions from board members and their level of comfort, but I am certainly prepared to offer a motion.
Any further discussion by anyone?
What is the anticipated difference in what is proposed on this project and these other setbacks and so forth they're talking about?
I'm not aware of the setbacks you're talking about now, but we're over 100 feet off of the right of way now, front. This, which was what was taken off the agenda tonight, the approval of this overlay was 40 feet from right of way. I don't know what they're proposing now, or what they're going to propose.
I think they're not wanting a change. I think the concern is, and I don't even sure if they know at this point if this chain of events would happen if we accept those streets. It was just an overabundance of caution that they recommended pulling it. But I know that they don't want the setbacks changed from the current decision that was made by planning and zoning and proposed by the Research Park Board.
So planning and zoning approved at their meeting the overlay district and all the specifications within the overlay district, number
Correct.
one. And this building, or this site plan, which was approved contingent upon the approval of that overlay district requirements, meets the requirements of the proposed overlay district.
Correct.
And her concern is that once the city accepts the streets, our requirements say that we have to have a 200-foot setback. And so her concern was, what's gonna happen because the setbacks are only supposed to be, according to the plan here, 40, 50 feet, so the streets will be non-conforming, and therefore the city wouldn't be able to accept the streets, is what her concern was, what she told me.
I thought that was for residential use at 200-foot setback.
I'm just telling you what she said. I'm not saying what they were or what they weren't. I'm telling you what she told me. Kim Richardson with the partnership.
But to answer your question, the planning and zoning did approve this specific site plan review based on everything that we've talked about here, and I see no reason not to proceed with this. It's really a technical issue that caused that item to be delayed or to be removed from the agenda. I just see no reason to delay this. It was within the intentions of what planning and zoning wanted and the research park and on and on. So I would recommend approval of this site plan review.
Do we have a second?
I'll second Matt's motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Gentlemen, get started.
Appreciate it.
Office of the City Clerk.
The only thing I have tonight is the claims docket for approval. The city's policies and procedures haven't been followed, and I will recommend to the board that they approve the claims docket.
You asked us for approval of the claims docket. Do we have a motion as such?
Move that we approve the claims docket ending on August 10th.
Second.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Let's take a roll. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? 4 to 3. Thank you.
Ms. Outlaw, appreciate you getting the tax sale information on the website. That helped. Any particular update? I guess the deadline's coming up soon.
The 25th.
The 25th.
Next Friday.
Have we gotten more people to come in and pay those taxes?
Yes, many of them coming in, so it's, sometimes, like I say, it's just their way of doing business, some people.
Some not gonna come, period, and that's their way of doing business. Have we advertised in the paper? Did I just miss the advertisement?
We advertised, it was back in July.
July, okay.
Yeah, there was a bunch of properties listed.
Today it was in the paper. All the properties were listed today.
Today, I thought the county was, it was ours.
That's the county. I thought it was.
county.
Maybe.
Mayor and Board, I'm requesting that Jason Horner and Anthony Harris be allowed to attend a Swatcher Relay and Programming School in Norcross, Georgia on August 21 through August 25th this year. We've gotten pretty much all of our hardware equipment set up in the substations, and now it's time to try to set the computer systems up and get everything to where that
So moved.
program.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed? Fire Department?
Mayor and Board, I got a couple of items. On the first one, I want to give you an update on the World Challenge team that we're getting ready
Y'all give us permission to solicit funds, and we've already started that, and we're well on our way. We've got a pancake breakfast going on at Applebee's. We've got a golf tournament coming in September. So the guys are really working hard. My proposal is to ask you permission to allow them to go to 2 warm-up tournaments prior to the World Challenge. In their practice day before yesterday, they're 12 seconds off the World Championship last year that won it. So these guys are doing a lot of hard work, and these 2 warm-up tournaments would give them exposure to the national types of competitions they're going to be in. And one trip's in August 24th to the 26th, and then the other trip would be September 29th through October the 1st.
Move approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second. We have several seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, your next item.
The other item is to present to you the 4-year plan. I'm going to try to do this pretty fast. This came about through what we've been trying to do with the fire rating, and you heard from Larry Carr tonight. And in an executive fire officer course that I'm taking now, I had to do a final research project. So I just tied them both together, laid out the options for you, and just kind of, I'm going to take you kind of quickly through there and get you over on page 7. And one of the things that's kind of complicated matters in the past, the city of Starkville has always taken the convenient role in building fire stations. If you notice, every fire station that we have now has been built on city-owned property. And that's the reason why we have so many overlaps and we're not getting the full benefit of the radius of 1.5 miles. If you notice down on Montgomery and Academy, it was a pumping station. We used that. Out on the airport, it was airport land. Station 1 was an old city dump. Station 3 was also city property out there. So the convenience of building on city property saved us money on land. But if you took Station 3 and Station 4 and you used their 1.5 mile radius, Station 1 only covers about 1/4 mile between the 2 of them. So in planning for the future, for my opinion is that we move these stations out so we can not only accommodate present need, but also give us a chance to anticipate 20 to 30-year growth. And so that's what we need to do. And then you've heard from what they were asking us, a second aerial apparatus. I've already talked with the rating bureau, and one of the things I've put in the budget this year is $26,000. Once the new platform comes in, matter of fact, next week we're going to do the final inspection, and it should be here sometime around the 1st of September. But to take the existing ladder and send it to Ohio, and for $26,000 we can get it up to par, and it would give us about 5 years more credit, and it would give us a little breathing room before we had to buy another $450,000 to $500,000 truck. Now this second aerial, it's not going to cost nearly as much because it's just going to be a Quint, which is nothing but a 65-foot aerial. So that's the one. The options that we were gave, you heard from Larry Carr. I took both of them and laid out the money costs and those sort of things. And to serve us better is to be able to relocate Station 3 in the Reed Road and Garrett Road area. There's an intersection there, a 3-way stop. There's available land on all 3 sides. So I think that that land could be pursued a lot cheaper than out there on the bypass. Once we relocate Station 3 to that area, then we would move a Station 5 out in the old West Point and Pat Station Road, which a lot of development is fixing to happen out there. That would cover us for the next 20 to 30 years, barring that we don't do another annexation, okay? So when you look at those 2 options, and the first option I really thought, matter of fact, this research turned my mind on it, because I really thought in the beginning that we would run 2 engine companies out of Station 1, which would give us more manpower downtown area. But what I realized was to put another engine company down there, we had to displace administrative staff, so we were either going to have to rent space, buy space, or find another place to house all the administrative offices. So it just didn't work out for that area. It's going to cost us as much or more. So in kind of a nutshell, kind of bringing it all together, I laid out a 4-year plan for you. If you look back on page 13, the immediate needs, we're pretty much taken care of if we get the budgeted anticipated that we put in there, the ladder 1 or the platform ladder will be here in about a month. We get the second ladder truck refurbished, should have it back around the 1st of January if we get that. And then we're looking at 2007. And so the only thing that I asked there was to purchase the land. As long as we are, and you heard what Larry said, they don't mandate anything. They kind of recommend. We don't have to do it, but as long as we're moving with a plan and they know we're moving with a plan, they're not so hardcore on coming in here and taking it away from you. So my first step would be to buy the land and relocate one station. And then the next year, or 2008 and 9, is buy the land and or go ahead and relocate the 5th station. But I think we need to buy both land now, because obviously in the old West Point Road and Pat Station Road, land is not going to get any cheaper out there. And I've already talked with J.D. Cork, and he's willing to sit down with us and talk about some land that he has out there, and it's prime property for us. It'll allow us to get to campus quicker, hit the bypass, and to service that that area out there that's fixing to become developed. So that's basically in a nutshell. You know, obviously funding is going to be up to y'all. The longer we put this off, the higher things are going to get, and the Rating Bureau will be back in here in 2.5 years. And if we don't have something to show for them on their, I guess their recommendations for us to maintain our 5, then I think we're going to start losing those points. The water system is in good shape now. With the new wells and the new elevated tanks, you know, as long as we continue to make these developers, you know, put the lines in and that sort of thing on their end of it, we're going to be in good shape as far as water. So I think as far as a rating, I think we're in real good shape. We're only 100 points away from a Class 4, and obviously that hinges on the training facility. But even when we get the second aerial in, we're going to pick up some more points there, so we could be less than 100 points away from the training facility. And to kind of clarify you on the training facility, I know we talked about the 10 to 12 acre partnership with MSU. That doesn't necessarily mean we have to have it. We can build a training facility at Station 3 once we get these stations relocated, probably for $100,000 to $250,000. All they ask for is a training facility that meets the needs of this city. We already have a 6-story tower over there, so we've got our tower. And we're just going to have a burn building, a drafting pit, and pretty much some classrooms, and we're going to have a training facility.
Chief.
Is there any questions?
Yeah, does the fire training facility have to be in the city limits, or is it something that we might be able to do cooperatively with, say, the county and make it available to the volunteer fire departments out there?
It has to be within the city, because what you do when you train, you pull all of your people or 1 or 2 engine companies outside the corporate limits. So our training facility has to be within inside the city limits so we can maintain fire coverage.
Okay.
The only thing I would ask y'all to do is maybe look at this comprehensive plan, and unless it, not necessarily commit to it, but at least let them know that we have a plan on the table. Any more questions?
One thing I would like to note is that our fire chief did, on page 16 in his conclusion, reference the hierarchy of human needs from Maslow, and I just was somewhat shocked and scared at that.
You didn't think I knew about Maslow?
No, that's not it. I just didn't expect to see it in a fire department report. But
those needs are there. I mean, you know, you got to take care of those human needs and then move on.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Personnel?
Sir Mayor and Board of Aldermen. As you know, we advertised for a city receptionist, and we received probably 35 or 40 applications. We screened all of those and narrowed it down to 5 people to interview. And the best one, the most qualified one, was a lady by the name of Jennifer Hughes that we'd like to recommend that we hire her. Grade 5, Step 1, at $16,557 annually. That's the same salary that the previous city receptionist had earned.
Boyd, who was part of the interviewing team for?
The interviewing team was the CAO and myself.
Do we have a motion?
go ahead and move motion approval then to hire Jennifer Hughes for the position of city receptionist at a grade 5, step 1 pay rate.
Do we have a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Motion with a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Your motion included
Thank you.
traditional.
Public service, Doug, you back there somewhere, I know.
I guess I should say that.
Mayor and Board, thank you for allowing me to place this item on the agenda. Ms. Tyndall, have they been passed out to everyone? Okay. At Lakeside Place out here on Old Highway 12, we need to get a 3,000 gallon per minute fire flow into the property, so we're within 500 feet of some of the back buildings. And this request tonight is requesting approval to purchase the pipe necessary to accomplish that project. We got 2 quotes for 1,000 foot of 10-inch C900 PVC pipe. One from Central Pipe in Jackson, $10,850, and the other one from Consolidated Pipe in Jackson for $12,400. So with that, I respectfully request your approval of allowing us to purchase the pipe from Central Pipe in Jackson. Alderman Cox, we're going to be over in that budgeted line item, but if you'll remember when we shifted some things around to cover the Curry Stream plant rebuild project, which was $500,000, I found out that the lead time on some of the medium material is going to be a few months, so a significant amount of that expenditure will be in the next fiscal year. So there'll be funds available for Debbie to make her final budget amendments and cover this item.
Do we have a motion?
I would move that we approve the purchase of the 1,000 feet of 10-inch C900 water pipe for hydraulic fire protection service from Central Pipe and Supply at the price quoted of $10,850, the low quote.
Second to that?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you, Doug. Sanitation?
Good evening, Mayor, Board. I'm here to request authorization to accept the bid for the 1.5 mil bags from Central Poly Corp. in the amount of $114,720 for the purchase of the garbage bags for the annual distribution.
And just as a refresher, Ms. Boyd, this is for both delivery time. We're gonna go ahead and
Yes.
order all of them at once.
Yes.
Do we actually take delivery of them all, or do you set
No,
two
we
separate deliveries?
two separate deliveries, times.
Questions? A motion to...
Mayor, I move we approve budgeted item 022-222-551 in an amount of $114,720.
Do we have a second to that?
Second.
We have a motion with a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and
For
thank
the
you.
meal and a half bag, not the 2 meal, is that correct?
That's right, that's correct. 1.5 mil.
That means if you put too many newspapers in, it's gonna split it.
And thank you
I
for
know that, yeah, but I thought maybe you might
such a
put it.
leadership session that you appointed me to, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Sure. That brings us down to moving to a closed session to discuss executive session. Do I have a motion that we move into a closed session?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you for all of your participation this evening.